Prince Andrew booed. Two princes who are out of favour with both members of the royal family and the public at large, Prince Harry and Prince Andrew, both for different reasons. And whilst I've explained that Prince Harry received some booing, many of you believe that that was entirely justified, so did Prince Andrew. The Daily Telegraph, with an article by Victoria Ward, tells us Prince Andrew booed by parts of coronation crowd. The Duke of York was booed as he was driven down the Mall in a state car ahead of the coronation service. Parts of the crowd in the grandstand in front of Buckingham Palace booed as Prince Andrew went past. As a non-working member of the royal family, the Duke will play no formal role in the ceremony. He didn't take part in the procession back to Buckingham Palace, nor did he appear on the balcony. On Friday night, Prince Andrew joined his children, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, at Mayfair Club, Oswald's, for dinner. They were joined by Prince Edward and Sophie, Countess of Wessex, as well as the Princess Royal and her husband, Vice Admiral Sir Timothy Lawrence. Princess Anne's daughter, Zara Tindall, and husband Mike were also there. So contrast the difference with regard to the treatment of Harry and that of Andrew. Whilst Beatrice and Eugenie have continued to have some degree of contact with Harry and were chatting to him when he turned up at the coronation, it's not the case that Edward and Sophie, Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh, would have anything to do with him, nor the Princess Royal ordinarily, although on this occasion she'd smile at him, although that might have been by way of warning. Sir Timothy Lawrence didn't bother with him. Zara Tindall and Mike Tindall didn't appear to bother with them either. Yet all of these individuals turned up and had dinner with Prince Andrew. So an individual who has been accused of being a bit of a sex nonce still finds favour. Perhaps they accept that he didn't do anything wrong, despite paying up to £12 million to make the matter go away. At the end of the day, there's no judgment against him, and there's no conviction, and therefore he must be presumed innocent, irrespective of the rumours that circulate about his behaviour. Of course, it is interesting to see the way that people respond. Prince Andrew, a narcissist, the upper lesser type B, an individual who is brash, belligerent, boastful, brusque in the way that he deals with people, believes that he's hugely important, orders people around, and is an arsehole of a buffoon. But nevertheless, what he has never done is repeatedly and obviously thrown his family under the bus. There were rumours that he sought to block Charles becoming king, but aside from that, he's never had a reputation for going out there and selling secrets about the royal family or complaining and bleating about them and playing the victim. That's not his style in terms of the type of narcissist that he is. It's not the case that he has a great sense of loyalty, but rather his form of narcissism just doesn't take him along the throw your family under the bus route. It doesn't take him under the playing the victim route. Instead, his is much more about a sense of entitlement. I'm Prince Andrew, you ought to pay me a lot of money and I'll put you in contact with some people of dubious provenance. But it is interesting to see the reaction. That although he was accused of having unlawful sex with somebody, something of course which he continues to deny, family members evidently believe him and will still have something to do with him, notwithstanding those allegations that were made against him. Yet another individual who supposedly went off and was very happy and is delighted and living his life to the full in the sun, but then made the cardinal sin of throwing family members under the bus, and thus has been frozen out by most members of the family, has been ostracised and cold-shouldered. It just shows the value that is placed by not just the royal family, but many other people, upon that concept of loyalty, discretion, and trust. But for Prince Andrew, he ends up getting booed as he goes down the Mall, and of course, as you ought to know by now, that's challenge fuel. There's a reaction which is good, but it's not a favourable reaction. He's not going to cause the car to stop and get out and say, "Okay, you fuckers, who wants some then? Come on then, I'll take you all on." He's not going to be able to directly assert control over them. He might remark about it to his daughters and say, "Listen to them, still can't move on from it and accept the fact that I didn't do anything wrong. That's right, Papa. I guess they just don't understand." And the sympathetic response that comes from his daughters gives him an indirect sense of control over the booing crowds outside. Or, probably most likely, he just thinks, "Fucking proles, they should know who their betters are." And arrogantly, he dismisses them in that upper lesser type B manner. The Duke of York, the article tells us, is no longer working royal, having been effectively sacked by his mother, which caused wounding, the late Queen Elizabeth, following his disastrous Newsnight interview, see Parts Pass Him, about Prince Andrew, in November 2019, in which he failed to express any regret, absence of emotional empathy, lack of accountability, over his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein, the convicted sex offender, or empathy for his victims. Of course, not a surprise, he's a narcissist. It emerged last month that Queen Elizabeth realised how disastrous the Duke of York's Newsnight interview had been as soon as she read the transcript, once again demonstrating the late Queen was no idiot. As the working royals rehearsed procedures for the coronation, the Duke of York was pictured in his Range Rover on a solitary drive around the grounds of Windsor Castle. His former wife, Sarah, the Duchess of York, is not attending the ceremony. She said that she understood why she wasn't invited and said you can't have it both ways. Fergie, for all her faults, at least demonstrating some common sense when it comes to her involvement. But for Prince Andrew, he was there, he was allowed to wear some regalia, and he was allowed to play a part. But he too was positioned in a similar way to Harry, somewhat out of the way. And he also found himself on the receiving end of booing, which has the impact that I've just described. But it does provide you with a useful contrast with regard to how one individual who has been ensnared by a narcissist and misbehaves, and another who is a narcissist and has misbehaved, how differently they're treated by members of their family, which is quite an instructive lesson. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.